Thanks, Daniela. Hello, everyone. It's so fun to be asked to come back to do this a second time around. Aglaya and I have I hope we have a great conversation today, just a reflection of International Women's Day. Today's conversation is about leadership, impact, and involving women in the project management and organizational leadership arenas. As project professionals, we play a critical role in turning strategy into outcomes. And it's inspiring to see so many women stepping up into this leadership space and helping to shape the future of our communities. Before I go on, though, I just want to acknowledge I'm in Yandina today, which is the Gubbi Gubbi traditional custodians of the land which Unity Water operates on. We actually have three traditional custodian areas, Gubbi Gubbi, Jindabara, and the Turrbal peoples. And Aglaya, I did a little bit of looking up, and I think the Melton Council region where you operate is in the Windjeri and the Wandiraba group. Is that, did I pronounce that correctly?
That's pretty good.
Excellent. So it's really important that we acknowledge this. Just behind me, we've got a Unity Water spring motif, which I absolutely love, and it represents all of the three different types of waters and the waterways at which we look after as a water utility to make sure that we are doing all of the right things environmentally and working in partnership with our First Nations and traditional custodians. So really important to acknowledge that before we kick off. So thank you very much. I'm sure that there's heaps of others on the call that are in different areas across the nation. I find it super interesting. So with that being said, going back to our females and women in project leadership, Aglaya, I'd love to start off with a little bit more about your leadership journey, but with a little bit of a flip. So if you had to summarize your leadership in three words before we get to know you, how would you describe those? What would be your three words?
My three words would be curiosity, collaboration, and impact. Curiosity, learning from others and staying open to new ideas. Collaboration, bringing people together, valuing diverse perspectives and building strong teams. And impact, focusing on meaningful outcomes that create real value for people, organizations, and communities.
Well, I love that. Such a powerful combination. Curiosity is definitely one which resonates well with me. Collaboration and communication are usually my three C's. But I'm curious just in the chat because we do have an active chat going for anybody who's on the call, if they can share their three words or which of those three words that meant a little bit to them or that they connected with. Now, speaking of your curiosity, collaboration, and impact, Aglaya, can you tell us a little bit about your background and your current role? Because I think you are 4 weeks into a new role.
So true. I am guilty as charged. Happy to talk about that as well. So I actually began my career with Hewlett Packard quite some time ago, HP as we mostly know it today. And my time at HP laid the foundation for my professional values, and that was in curiosity, accountability, and a commitment for continuous growth. And it was an environment that encouraged innovation, challenged thinking, and fostered career self-reliance. And during my time there, I worked across four different divisions. I progressed from an individual contributor role to management and then senior leadership roles while I was there. And since then, my career has spanned the corporate, government, and not-for-profit sectors. And that's given me a broad perspective on organizational dynamics, stakeholder engagement, and purpose-driven delivery. So I was head of EPMO at City of Melton. Yes, 4 weeks in. My role is to ensure that our enterprise-wide programs and projects are strategically aligned, well governed, and positioned to deliver measurable, sustainable impact. Um, I play a key role in connecting strategy to execution and creating the structure, clarity, and visibility needed to successfully deliver initiatives that matter to our stakeholders, community, and long-term success of our organisation. So just to share with you, the portfolio size is over 200 million, and that's currently full on in delivery, and it's actually strategically aligned to our council plan and our commitment to not only our councillors and mayor, but also the community in the municipality of Melton.
It's quite a portfolio of work that you've got there and quite a background. So just so I can wrap this up, so your experience is across corporate, government, and not-for-profit. It's quite unique to have such a broad experience, and I'm sure that that helps you with your leadership and your organizational dynamics. Um, of each of those roles and those different environments, which one do you think shaped your leadership approach the most?
The most? Well, that's a good question. I think there's a few of them that come to mind. Definitely my time at HP has shaped a lot of me professionally. Also, I had some time at Department of Defense, or Defense as it's well known, in a major acquisition program that was to create a new ERP for logistics, bringing the services and financial reporting onto the one platform. That certainly had a huge impact on my leadership and, in fact, project management and program delivery insights as well. And I guess more recently, working at not-for-profits or even just generally in contracting and consulting, going from one organization to the other has actually built up my knowledge and made me a bit more flexible and resilient and very good at working in ambiguous environments and just taking knowledge from one area to the next and shaping what an operating model would look like for project management in various sized organizations.
I love that. There's a little bit of agility baked into that ambiguous environments, or the grey, as we like to call it. We're operating in the grey. Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is definitely a skill in its own. And we'll kind of get to that later on, I think, down the track when we kind of explore some mindsets that set you up for success. But reflecting back on International Women's Day, I'm just curious because I know why International Women's Day is important to me, but I'm curious as to what is the link between where you operate and what you see as International Women's Day from your perspective.
Well, it's important to me as well. And I guess it's a moment to reflect on both the progress and the work that still needs to be done to achieve a true gender equality. Throughout my experience, I've seen how powerful it is when women are supported, heard, and given equal opportunities to lead and succeed. On a personal level, it reminds me of the women who have influenced and supported me along the way, and they still do. I'm referring to mentors, colleagues, family, and friends. I'm going to plug my mum, a great mentor in my life, and coach, and everything else,
Love that. Shout out to
who
all
have
of the
helped
mums.
yeah, of course, all mums in the world who have helped shape my journey and encouraged me to keep growing. Their resilience, strength, and leadership continue to inspire me today. It also reinforces my responsibility to help create opportunities for others, whether that's mentoring, advocating for inclusive workplaces, or just simply making diverse voices be heard. I believe that we'll play a role in lifting each other up. And so for me, International Women's Day is not just a celebration of achievement, but also a reminder to keep pushing for a future where every woman and girl has the chance to reach their full potential.
I love that. What I'm reflecting on there is the words that you said, and I really love this perspective, celebrating progress because there has been so much progress, but whilst also recognizing the work that's still to come. And, like from my perspective, and I've just got goosebumps, what I love about International Women's Day and what I love about most about being a female leader in the business is just making the path clearer for for the women who come behind us. So that's what my drive is, and that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. Um, but we have a poll, and so I'm just curious before we move on to our conversation, Zaglaya, for our audience team members, Danielle is going to help me with a little poll. How many of you have a mentor actively at the moment? So, Glaya, you mentioned that you have quite a few mentors, and your mum is one, and I definitely think that mums are amazing. Um, but is there somebody in particular that you have found has been a guiding hand outside of your mum, professional wise?
Oh, of course. And I think
And
a lot of
I
the
love the cheer squad.
I think also very early on in the piece, especially when I was quite young, starting out, I was looking up to senior leaders, and I had a great opportunity to be involved in quite a few mentoring programs in the organizations that I worked in. And what the message for me was about sharing experiences and also having a point of reference or a sounding board to give you that advice for, especially in career opportunities, but also creating opportunities within the workplace to showcase what I could have, I could be doing or what I can be doing across different teams and different groups in the organization. So I think that's really shaped how I have do a lot of that today myself for other people as well.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And looking at our poll results, 80% of the women on this call have got a mentor. And I just think that that's so critically important because it's been so influential in my life. And it sounds like a guy, it's the same in yours. But equally so, it's something that we want to do on behalf of other women as well. You know, acting as that coach and mentor. It's definitely a passion place of mine. So I love that we have that connection. Thank you for sharing that. Another kind of reflection there was just your experiences. So I'd love to tap into that a little bit more, just around that leadership and development and influence experience. So can you share a little bit more about within your outside work and in your inside work, how has that helped shape the way that you lead today?
Well, it's definitely been shaped by both a professional angle and also a personal angle as well, and particularly growth outside of work. So within my role, working with diverse teams and navigating complex challenges has taught me the importance of listening, adaptability, and clear communications. I've learned that strong leadership isn't just about direction. It's about creating an environment where people feel valued, supported, and confident to contribute their ideas. Outside of work, experiences in my personal life have reinforced the importance of resilience, empathy, and perspective. They remind me that everyone brings different experiences and pressures to the workplace, and that understanding those perspectives have helped me shape my leadership approach that prioritizes collaboration, trust, and continuous learning. And I guess a key message for me in my experience is that we're people, and we people that are working and people that have got lives outside of work, and we just bring all that to the workplace and bring ourselves to the workplace is the way to get the best results in terms of what we can be achieving in the organization as well.
Absolutely, inclusivity, and I just love that that kind of reflection around bring the full person to work, and that includes all of the things that make us individual and special because you never know the way that somebody else's mind or their perspective sees a problem, and that might be the solution. So it's definitely worth canvassing all options when you're discussing things with people, which I think is what makes leaders amazing because you can kind of see, hey, let's have this conversation. Let's bring you into this discussion. Here's our problem statement. Let's get it out on the board. And it's really fantastic. But you're absolutely right. That balance between professional experience and personal growth often creates the most authentic leadership styles. Another point you raised there, which has piqued my interest, which is around the pressures and challenges. Now, working in a project management area, we have a lot of pressures and challenges as project professionals, as well as leaders. So when you're facing those difficult moments, is there a particular technique or a mental strategy that you use to walk through those challenges?
Well, I try my best to stay grounded and approaching the situations with clarity and not reacting emotionally. I think that's held me to good stead, in fact. And I must say, as I get older, I get better at doing this than
Yes,
early
so
on in my
true.
career. So one technique I really rely on is stepping back and to reassess the bigger picture, asking what is the real issue, what outcomes are we aiming for, and what options are available at this with the situation at hand. That pause helps me to bring perspective and prevents decisions from being made under pressure. And I also place a strong value on seeking input from others. I don't think leadership doesn't mean that you've got all the answers or facing all the challenges by yourself. It is about drawing on insights from colleagues or mentors, which often leads to stronger, more balanced solutions. And I try to reframe the challenge to an opportunity as well, which is not always easy to do, but it's a way of learning and growing from the experience. And this can be quite demanding as well. But it's often the most valuable lesson is from a personal and development and stronger leadership perspective as well.
So good. When you say grounding, what grounds you? What are your things that ground you?
Oh, well, definitely in the workplace, it's actually having built a strong
Yeah.
team. That's quite grounding in itself. But also outside of that is the people that support and I enjoy spending time with as well. So family and friends, and other elements of having hobbies and doing things like going to the gym are quite grounding opportunities. So physical fitness for me is a grounding element to being who I am today as well.
I'm absolutely in awe of runners. I'm not a runner, and I often say to my team, if you see me running, it's because there is a zombie apocalypse coming and you must follow the leader. But otherwise, I'm not running. So please tell me, are you a runner?
I'm a swimmer,
Okay, great. I can get down
so
with that. All right.
I'm not a runner. I love the water, but I like working out as well and doing things like pump classes and F35 or F45, depending on my level of fitness.
That's absolutely okay because I've heard that zombies don't like the water, so you'll be safe. Um, Yeah, absolutely. So that's really interesting just around like your reflections there around what helps you stay resilient and that perspective, stepping away and taking perspective is really important. Um, there's one that I learned a really long time ago is talk before you type. And I think that that's something that like it's so easy just to like, from your perspective or the way that you've interpreted that to, bang out a quick response, but it's really good advice to step away, seek to understand. There's that curiosity thing coming back into it, have a conversation, and then maybe kind of go forward with the formalities of that. So I do love that. I'm also really interested to hear from our audience just in the chat on ways that they stay resilient while we go through the next kind of parts of our discussion. But just leaning into resilience, Agalia, would you say that you have a growth mindset? Is that something that you find valuable?
Yes, I would say that. I'm guilty as charged again. What you'll find is I believe that skills, knowledge, and leadership capabilities are continually developed throughout experience, reflection, and willingness to learn. And rather seeing it as a challenge or an obstacle, I try to view them as opportunities to build new skills and gain different perspectives. So to maintain that mindset, I focus on a few key things, and firstly, staying curious and open to learning. And that's whether that's through professional development, seeking feedback, or just hearing someone different perspectives from colleagues and peers. And feedback in particular is something I value because it helps identify areas for improvement and growth. And that happens throughout time. I don't think it's a once-off activity. And I also try to reflect regularly on experiences, and that's both successful ones and unsuccessful ones too. And taking the time to understand what worked well and what could be done differently helps turn everyday experiences into learning opportunities as well. And in the project space, there's a lot of this happening. When I guess when you finish a project or a phase of a program, you could do a lot of self-reflection in terms of the leadership of that you've demonstrated and also the outcomes that have been achieved as well. And I also remind myself that growth happens outside of our comfort zone, and that's the challenge for me as well, an everyday challenge.
Absolutely. What's the saying that they say about nobody who was ever comfortable? ever like, kind of progress, because comfort means that you're sitting in it and you're great. And it's when you're uncomfortable, that's the universe trying to get you to move forward or change direction. So it's such a strong signal. So really listen to your body. And, and that's not saying being comfortable is not amazing, because being comfortable at certain times in your life absolutely fits the bill. But when you get that level of discomfort, really lean into that feeling, because it can really take you some amazing places. I'm curious around feedback, and quick plug, because I read that book, like The Subtle Art of Giving Feedback. And I think that that changed the way that I give feedback as a leader. And it's also changed the way I teach people in my team about how to receive feedback. So there's definitely an art to giving feedback, and there's definitely an art to receiving feedback. Because, like you said, um, like you need to, pick that up and examine it and figure out, like, what parts of those feedback things that you can do and change, which I think is really quite challenging, you know what I mean? And so you really just need to, lean into that feeling a little bit more. But I'm just curious though, because you're at quite a senior level. And so when you say continue learning and curiosity, what does that look like at a senior level for you?
Well, for me, because again, I'm a bit of a serial contractor consultant, that's how I feed myself.
Not
That
anymore.
yeah, that's true. I'm a bit grounded now, very grounded. But that's to me is part of my informal learning or way of learning as well. Is just going into new environments and challenging what I see and who I am as well in terms of what I can bring into that workplace. But I think for me, I get a lot of insight from other senior leaders, and also it's about being a bit more strategic. I think once your career moves on from mid-level type of management roles or leadership roles, they you become a bit more strategic. So it is about the strategy setting, and then it becomes about the execution of that. And it's not necessarily something that you're doing end to end, but it's something that you're influencing at that level and having those types of conversations more often than what you would in other levels of the organization.
I totally agree. How good is it just building that relationship and having that conversation and seeing the different perspective at the senior level through, under seeking to understand. Like it's been so transformational for me. And it's definitely the space I love spending a lot of time in. I wish I could just be a little like, a
Mm.
little fly on the wall and just sit there and absorb all of the conversations. We're not all that lucky. Um, but it is great building relationships and, just listening and seeking to understand. I love that. Um, I'm just thinking there about, like we talked about mindset, which is really great. And as we kind of progress and, especially being women in project management and project leadership and leadership in general, leadership roles are demanding. How do you approach the balance as you progress? And I mean, like, right now you probably don't feel like you have much balance because you're 4 weeks into a new role. But normally, outside of the 4 weeks, how do you maintain that balance so you are investing in yourself? What does that look like?
Well, I completely agree. It's demanding, and but also that's challenging and rewarding at the same time as well. And for me, I approach the trying to get the balance both intentionally and being realistic. And I think very earlier on, I thought I was just being too optimistic in how I actually found this balance in my career. So for me, it's actually setting clear priorities now and recognizing that balance isn't always about equal time. And it's about being present and focused on what matters most in each moment. And I guess the short version of that is just to be 100% present in the time of the situation that's being held and not being distracted by something else. And professionally, I focus on building strong teams and trusting the people around me. And I guess delegating effectively comes into that, empowering others as well. And it only supports team development, but also it creates a more a sustainable way of working. And it ensures responsibilities are shared and that the organization continues to grow through collective leadership. And on a personal level, I make a conscious effort to create space to recharge and maintain perspective. It's as simple as having, whether that's family time, spending time with friends, or keeping active, or just simply just stepping away from work just to reset. Those moments are important for maintaining energy and clarity. And what that means for me ultimately is giving me that balance enables me to show up more focused, thoughtful, and effective leader. Um,
Yeah, I love that. There was a person in the chat was kind of sharing about, not taking a notebook with them, and I've recently had a friend of mine share um and it's as a woman, I'm reflecting on this and I'm thinking, well, like that's not exactly 100% safe all of the time. But she just shared that she went into a gym class and she left her phone in the car, and just how, like that one act of just being like, no, this is me time. I'm actually going to leave all of the distractions over here, and go into this class and just have that where, she didn't feel like she was divided. She just said that that was so transformative in that moment, and that's something that she's really bringing into action. Now, I'm a horse rider, so I definitely need to take my phone with me because that's not really a safe activity. I'm definitely not a runner, so I could take it on a run, but you as a swimmer probably can't take your phone with you in the water. So it is really important that we, like unpair from these devices, because we are a little bit 360 available in this, new digital world, which is exciting. I'm also curious because I've been reflecting on this recently in my own journey. Has your definition of balance changed over time? Because I definitely feel like mine has.
I definitely, I agree. I think, especially when you're building up your knowledge, it's almost like you've got this momentum and you've got this speed, and you want to get to a goal in terms of perhaps, or perhaps in the case of me, I came into uni as an undergrad, started my career very fresh after having been graduated, and then I just went on this momentum of growth in the roles that I had and the opportunities that were presented, and the further opportunities I had once leaving one organization to the other. And having back the opportunity of going back and doing more study, I just really realized the second time round, doing postgrad and a master's study, that you know what, I had zero time before I started um, going back to uni and working full time, and then I realized I had minus zero time when I actually back went to do that. And I thought, well, talk about challenging myself and just being so intense, not only in the workplace, being at defense at the time, and then going back to uni and business school, huge commitment. And then I realized I had no time for me, or no time for family, or no time for
Yeah,
anything else. So that was a turning point in my life to say, well, once this is done, I'm not going to do this to myself again. That was the promise. So
absolutely.
actually, I didn't go back and do further study at higher education, but I have actually am a serial learner, so I have gone to do other things. But the time commitment has been different, and the balance I've struck in doing that has been different each time I've gone back uh, to do more of
Absolutely.
something.
There's lots of things there the workplace can enable, like work time and other time, which I absolutely agree with. But how much is that such a female statement minus negative time? I could only expect a woman to kind of come up with that. I have no time, but I actually have minus negative time. I'm working behind. So that I had a good chuckle when you just said that. I was like, yes, I feel like this regularly. So we're going to jump into a little bit of career advice, for somebody who was, worked across so many different industries. But before we do that, just wanted to go to our next poll really quickly. I'm curious from an audience perspective. Um, what career in leadership progression that they're planning on, whether or not they're moving into leadership roles now or whether or not they're currently in leadership roles. So Daniela's going to help me launch the poll super quickly, just so we can get an idea on where the people on the call are at. Oops, Danielle, oh, there it is. I was just going to say she might be having technical troubles. So while everyone is completing the poll, we can move on to some other questions, which is, like one question I've got for you at the moment, which is, what is one key experience or a lesson that you think has shaped your success? Something that you reflect on and you go, oh, like I learned such a strong lesson then, or that experience really helped me move to where I'm at the moment.
I think it's, I must say, I think it's when I actually went to defense. Before going to defense, I thought I was a pretty good PM. And in fact, I thought I was a pretty good manager as well. But that was in a corporate setting versus a major government portfolio, federal portfolio with huge budgets and huge expectations from the general public in Australia or everyone that lives in Australia. So for me, no, being in a major acquisition program that was $140 million in value for one of its phases actually put a whole different
Mm,
dynamic on scale on what we do in project management and delivery when you're scaling to that degree, but also how we do things like stakeholder management in an environment where we're trying to bring three separate services into the one platform. So the Army, Navy, and the Air Force, and also management reporting back to the Minister's office in terms of how we're managing our programs and projects and how we're managing not only the financials, but the delivery behind that. So that was a really key lesson in the sense of uh, getting myself more educated while I was at Defence in the project management space, and having the opportunity to see more strategic stakeholder engagement and influencing when it came to the military side of the environment that I was in, which I had never been exposed to that. So what that taught me was be again open-minded, listen to feedback, see how things operate in an environment that is quite dynamic, even for being a government portfolio and ever changing in case based on the decisions that were being made. But again, how a strategic decision is made and what type of input is actually required to be able to make that. And I think that's something that is still a story I tell because of the impact that it had. And I was there for 5.5 years in the end. And I went to a director role too while I was there. So that for me, that was an achievement based on the fact that I didn't have a military background. The fact I was a female, very commercial orientated, and I was working, having to lead a military and a civilian workforce, which I hadn't done before. So it was an experience in itself. And then achieving those senior leadership opportunities as well while I was there.
absolutely. I would definitely classify defense as a very complex organization. And so I'm curious, there's just something that you've just shared with us, which is, like that stakeholder influence without direct authority. And that's quite difficult to like to go into because it's a very hierarchical organization. But am I right in thinking that the way that you combated that and build your influence was through relationships and that, like you just said, it was through feedback and listening? Is there any other kind of strategies you throw in there?
Coffee. Have a lot of coffee
Coffee.
with people. I think
I
that's
love that.
or some sort of
Coffee
drinking
equals
with
work
people.
wine. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
spending time with people makes a huge difference. Just because obviously it's also giving yourself the opportunity to see things from another perspective and from their lens as well. There's often a lot of activity going on that you're not aware of, depending on how you're involved with someone. So when you get closer to them, you actually see a different, you just get a different perspective on their position and how that impacts on what it is that you're working on together.
Absolutely. What advice would you give to somebody who is transitioning from project management into a broader leadership role?
Well, I think it's a skills transition. So when you're in project management, it's really good foundational skills building for leadership because of the skills in organization, communication, and problem solving. And the key shift really is when you go into more broader leadership roles, is that from managing the task and the timeline to actually leading the people and the strategy. And that's where the influential management really sets in as well. And so that essentially means developing others, um, thinking longer term, and influencing outcomes beyond the immediate what you've got responsibility for. And that's usually a project. And it's also important because you have to get a little bit more comfortable with ambiguity. Leadership often requires decision making without all the information, and staying curious, asking questions, continuing to build relationships across teams can help with that transition as well.
Absolutely. That curious thing is so topical at the moment, and I think it's a word that is very current because I know that I've been using it a lot at work, and I just love that I was watching something the other day that said toddlers are the most curious humans on the planet, and they ask something like 170 questions like in an hour. And I was just like, how amazing is it to be so curious about the world that, I mean, not that we want to like work with people who ask 170 questions an hour. And if you've ever had a toddler, you'll know that it's probably the most exhausting time of your life. But I love that they just have this energy for life. They just want to know how everything works. And so I thought that we could all, activate the little toddler in us and turn on that curiosity lens and, be a little bit more openly curious, and not quietly curious. But, a lot of these conversations that we're having today and discussion points, there's some really great reflections. So to better engage and to support future workforce leaders, particularly in areas facing challenges such as like location, technology, language, culture, um, what are your thoughts on those reflections? Like, is there a key reflection that you can share with us to say that talks about some of those areas? Which one kind of stands out to you? Technology, language, culture?
I think for me, it's about talent existing everywhere, and the opportunity doesn't always exist. So, from an organization point of view, it's critical in creating the pathway so you can be inclusive and accessible. So, it does cover things like location, technology, and language, culture fit in certain opportunities. And it is also enabling flexible learning opportunities, mentorship programs, and partnerships to help remove some of these barriers that will be barriers for people to engage and participate in as well. I think it's also with the differences in these areas, it's also important to be active listener and also to understand when someone needs support. And I think
Mm.
sometimes being practical is a really good tip that I think works quite well depending on where it doesn't matter where you are. And also understanding the challenges that people face from their perspective helps us to design those programs. So if there's a logistics challenge, then I mean, having a remote program is something that will be practical for someone that actually can't get to an office site to be able to participate in, as an example. And it's also not about one size fitting all either. So I think that's just looking at it from a perspective of, well, what is going to maximize the opportunity for people to be involved and contribute to an outcome with having those limitations or constraints um, also in the mix, just to enable a better solution and a better way of working.
Absolutely. And that piece, I just find that the world is getting smaller and, like we're getting so much more diverse. And I just think that that diversity is, cultural diversity, language diversity, life experience diversity. It just brings so much more of a rich, working environment and so much more robustness to our solutions and opportunities. I'm really enjoying my space at the moment where I get to connect with all of these people around the business who have these amazing experiences and, like diversity. And it just, it absolutely thrills me. So I do agree with that, absolutely. We are slowly getting into the wind up, and so I'm wondering if you can share some skills that have helped you progress from one role to the next. And so if you can think about which ones you would take with you and which ones you would build upon, what are maybe your top three or four?
I think for me, it would be about strong communication, strategic thinking, and I know we talked about this quite a lot. It's about relationship building and that adaptability to change, or the ability to adapt to a change. I think
Absolutely,
they
I
are
do
quite
love
key
that.
skills. Yeah.
Yeah. And progressing into a senior leadership role, what do you think about some skills there that or experience that you can kind of share?
I think it's what I have found my personally is just to have a go, really. I think often we limit ourselves because we may not tick all the right criteria for a position that's been advertised or an opportunity that we aspire to reach. But I think sometimes we may equally surprise ourselves with the ability to reach that goal that we would like with the effort and the work that we've got supporting us behind us. So I think having that opportunity to um, back yourself and be willing to step in a challenging space will actually present itself other opportunities for you in the future.
Absolutely. And that learn as you go, right? So you've said that before, that the growth happens when you're outside of your comfort zone. So look for those opportunities and take a leap back yourself. I absolutely support that. I love that. I think that that concludes most of our questions. We've got about 5 minutes left, and I know Daniela is going to do some wrap ups for us. But I would just wanted to share to say thank you so much for sharing your experience and your insights with us today, with me and with all of our team members on the audience. We've got some time for some audience questions. And so one question that we do have is there was a person on the chat who was asking about mentors. How do you find one? Do you have any advice on finding a mentor?
I think it's sometimes the mentor finds you. I think if you're in a work sense, in a workplace, a lot of people assume that their direct line manager needs to be their mentor, but there's an element of chemistry and connectedness that you feel with a level of comfort before you maybe want someone to be your mentor. So I think exploring is a good way of finding the right mentor for yourself, being involved in mentorship programs. I've been very fortunate. I think nearly every employer I've been at has given me the opportunity to be going to either go into a leadership program or into a mentoring program, being a mentee myself or being a mentor to other people. So just keep your options open, and there's nothing wrong with doing industry mentorship either. And again, I was
Hmm.
fortunate to do a cross government industry mentorship program as well. So you'd be surprised who you come across or who you probably won't get to meet in the workplace unless you step out and have an exploration outside of where you normally are as well.
Absolutely. I love that Louise jumped in on that one and said, reach out to somebody who impresses you because all they can say is no, and it's absolutely right. And I think most of the time they would be very flattered by the opportunity to give somebody, to become a mentor for somebody. Tracy has a question. I think we've got time for one more. Sorry, Daniela. Um, and that is, what sort of advice would you give to someone who is seeking a leadership role within the current organization? However, at the present, they don't have any leadership roles available. So how would they signal leadership interest?
I think telling people about what your aspirations are is a good thing. A lot of organizations have PDPs or performance development plans,
Hmm.
and you can use that as a mechanism to build up your capability as well. And also I strongly encourage this, and I've been known to do this myself, is actually go outside of your organization and be in an opportunity where you can learn and grow, or even secondment opportunities will give you the opportunity to showcase your skill and makes it visible to others on what you can bring to the table as well.
Absolutely, I totally agree. There's been so many valuable things in this conversation, Natalia. Thank you. Curiosity, collaboration, resilience, and impact are probably the ones I'm taking away with me, and the importance of creating an opportunity for others, which I think leads into the theme of International Women's Day, and it's definitely what gets me out of bed in the morning. I might hand back over to Daniela to close us out, but I just wanted to say thanks again for the discussion and sharing your journey with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Aglaya and Killy. It's been a pleasure to learn from you, really. I consider myself really young. I know I'm young. I'm only 23, and um, yeah, this really makes me feel like I will achieve those goals. So it's great to see women in these big roles. So thank you so
We will
much.
help you, Danielle. I promise. We will help you.
Yeah, my mentors. So right now I'm just gonna share my screen real quick. And just want to let you know that if you're based in Sydney, we're running our practical AI for PMO and project professionals, 9th of April in our office. Otherwise, if you are based somewhere else, send me a message and we can do also in-house training for you. If you're based in Melbourne, we have our upcoming leadership symposium on the 21st of May. And if you're in Brisbane, we're going back on the 3rd of September. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. Go and have a look at our website as well. There is more information there. Again, thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.